right, welcome back, my money friends. Today we're going to be talking about a pretty important subject, and that is the government stimulus checks that are going to be coming to you, hopefully, within the next few weeks. And before we even get to that, I want to say that I hope you all are staying safe and healthy inside. Stay 6 feet away. Don't forget about social distancing, but also remember to support the small businesses in your local community. It's really important. They're going through a hard time. A lot of people are going through a hard time, so support them as much as you can. But yeah, I hope you all are staying healthy. Hope you all are staying safe, and we'll get through this. And let's just chat a little bit about money and make sure that you're all set to go when the government sends out some stimulus checks. Basically, what we're going to talk about on this is why the government is sending out stimulus checks, and most importantly, how much are you going to get? When are you going to get it, and how are you going to actually get it? So we're going to go through all those today. So we're going to start. I'm going to give you a quick background on why stimulus checks and government direct payments to citizens is actually a thing. And then we'll kind of dig more into the details of how much and when and all those other questions. So basically, with what's happening in the economy, a lot of small businesses, a lot of gig economy workers, freelancers, employees in general, companies are going through a hard time. So let's take an example with the restaurant industry. So with the restaurant industry specifically, a lot of those workers, let's say waiters, waitresses, bartenders, dishwashers, chefs, they're in a position where the restaurants just aren't open as much anymore. So most of those workers, if they're hourly workers, their wages and the actual hours that they're working are being reduced. So that means that they're in a difficult situation where they might have rent, they might have other fixed costs that they need to pay, and just because the economy kind of took a complete stop over the past month, they're now in this position where they might have a struggle to actually be paying their bills. So the direct government payment in the stimulus package is a way that we can actually inject money into the hands of consumers like you and me, or like in that example, the restaurant workers, to actually help pay some of their short-term bills until the economy gets back up and running again. The payments aren't necessarily going to make you a millionaire, unfortunately, but they should actually help you get through in the short term with some of the bills you have to pay until the economy picks back up. And in the case of that restaurant, the restaurant opens and you're able to get your hours back. The government has actually done direct payments like this 2 other times in history. One was in 2001 during the recession that happened after 9/11, and the other was in 2008 during the Great Recession. And both of those times, President George Bush actually injected money as part of a stimulus deal and sent checks directly to American citizens. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The main difference is kind of discussing how the process has changed from 2001 and 2008 into 2020 and the current economic situation that we're in. So let's jump into it. First, let's talk about who is actually going to get these checks when they're sent out. So the first main criteria is that you do have to be a U.S. citizen to receive these checks. If you're not a U.S. citizen, even if you're living in the U.S., maybe you have a green card, unfortunately, you're not able to get these government stimulus checks. And for the second, we're actually going to look at if you are an individual or a married couple, because that will actually determine how much money you're going to get. The government in 2001 and 2008 gave around $600 to $1,200 depending on if you were an individual or a married couple, and there was also a small amount given if you had a child as well. And it's a similar structure in 2020 for these new stimulus checks. The main difference now in 2020 is the amount that you're actually going to get has been increased since 2001 and 2008 stimulus packages. Now you'll get anywhere between $1,200 and $2,400 depending on if you're an individual or a married couple. And then again, there's also a $500 increment for each child that you have that is still a dependent under you. Now, each of those numbers doesn't necessarily mean just because you're an American citizen and you're an individual, you're going to get $1,200, but that's what we're going to kind of break down is how much, now that you've decided, okay, are you an individual, are you a married couple, which I hope you know, then we'll be able to figure out how much you're actually getting based off of your income. So we're going to talk about that right over there. And we are back broadcasting from my comfy poof. So let's talk about how much you're actually going to get for these checks, depending on if you're an individual or a married couple. We're going to start with individuals. So as an individual, the maximum amount that you can receive is $1,200 from the government. And so to determine how much you're actually going to get, they've put a base number on that is if you earn $75,000 or less per year, and that number is going to be based off of either your 2019 tax return, if you've already filed those for this year, or if you haven't filed those for this year, they're going to look at your 2018 tax return. They're going to add up all the income you had or all the income that you actually reported on your taxes, and that's going to be the number they base this off of. So if during those years, whether it's 2018 or 2019 for you, you earned $75,000 or less, then you are eligible to receive $1,200 from the government as this stimulus check. So that's the first thing, $75,000 or less, $1,200 from the government. Now, let's say you actually earn more than $75,000 per year. How much are you actually going to get? And we can actually break down the math right now. So what they've determined is that for every $100 that you make over the threshold of $75,000, your check will actually be reduced by $5. So in this example we have conveniently right over here, if you're making $85,000, let's say, that would be $10,000 over the threshold of $75,000. And in 10,000, you have 100 100s. So 10,000 divided by 100 gives you 100. Based off of the threshold they've said, for every $100 that you made over $75,000, you'll actually get $5 reduced off of your check. So what that means in this case is that we have 100 increments over the $75,000 threshold. So then 100 times 5 gives us $500. And that $500 is the amount that our check will be decreased in this example right here. So if our check originally was going to be $1,200, now our check is going to be $1,200 minus $500, which gives us the magic number of $700. So now let's go through the married couple example, because the numbers for that and the thresholds that they've set are slightly different than if you're an individual. And after that, then we're going to talk about how you actually get your money and when it will actually come. So if you're a married couple and you filed as a married couple on your previous tax return, then you will actually have a $150,000 threshold in terms of the amount of income you can have to receive the maximum payment. So anyone making $150,000 or less as a married couple will receive a $2,400 payment. Similarly to the individuals, let's say that you make over $150,000 as a joint married couple. How does that actually affect the amount that the government will pay you? So in this example right here, let's say you made $175,000 as a married couple. The threshold is $150,000. That gives you a $25,000 overage compared to what that initial base threshold was for the maximum amount. In $25,000, you have 250 100 increments. So that actually means that the amount that we decrease our payment by is going to be 250 times 5, which gives us $1,250. So then to calculate the amount that we will actually receive as a married couple, we will take $2,400, subtract $1,250 from that, and that gives us $1,150. And now to talk about when you'll receive your money and how you will receive it, let's go back there. Now the when is a little bit harder to tell you because we have a lot of different people telling us different dates on when it's going to actually happen, and for a lot of people it might actually be over a period of time of a few different weeks until you actually receive your payment. So what we've actually heard from the President and the Treasury Secretary is that they want to get your payments out to you by April 6th. Which is only 2 weeks away. Now that's a really quick turnaround time, and there's a lot of people out there that are saying that it's more likely to be 6 to 8 weeks, and some people saying it even might be up to 3 months. So we can probably be safe to say, even though this is a very large range, that once they actually announce the specific date when you're going to receive your check, it'll probably be within 3 to 12 weeks of that. Now that you know when you'll actually receive your checks in the next couple weeks or at the maximum a couple months, let's actually talk about how that money gets into your bank account. So if you qualify for the government stimulus checks, there's actually 2 different ways that you can receive the money in your bank account. The first is through direct deposit. So how this works is if you filed your previous tax return electronically, you probably either had to pay taxes or get a refund by putting in your bank account information into the banking software. So in some people's case, it might have been TurboTax, it could have been H&R Block, it could have been a lot of different online systems where you actually e-filed your taxes, put in your bank account information, and either received a refund or had to pay extra for your taxes last year. So because the government has the banking information of how you either received a refund or paid more for your taxes on your last return, they're able to very quickly and easily just deposit money back into that account. So if, for example, you are getting $1,200 and you file electronically, they'll basically just use that bank information and direct deposit $1,200 directly into your bank account. Hopefully, again, because those are electronically, you should actually receive those payments a little bit quicker than if you're actually getting the second method, which is a check. If you didn't file your last tax return electronically, or if you just didn't put in banking details when you actually got your return or had to pay, then you'll likely receive a paper check from the government. Now this could take a little bit longer, and basically what they'll do is they'll use the address on your previous tax return and they'll send a check directly to that address. So that is the quick overview of the government stimulus checks that hopefully will be coming to you if you fall within the thresholds and the criteria that we discussed. Let me know in the comments how you're planning to spend the money. Maybe you're hoping to pay off some rent. Maybe you're gonna go help support a local business or just put it in your savings account, but let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any other questions or comments. Feel free to like the video, give me a quick subscribe, and I will see you next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, support your small businesses and your local businesses, and we'll see you next time.